I'll translate the story into American English, adapting the names and locations while maintaining the original length and style. Here's the translation. Teacher mocks student for living in the countryside. Westfield Academy in New York wasn't just a school. It was an institution that had been educating the children of high society for generations. Its marble corridors, cutting-edge laboratories, and immaculate sports facilities stood in stark contrast to the simplicity of Lincoln County Public School in Oak Ridge Valley, rural Kentucky, where Jack Miller had studied until now. At 17, Jack crossed the school's main courtyard like someone traversing a foreign country. His thin and slightly hunched body, the result of years helping with daily farm work, contrasted with the studiedly casual posture of the other teenagers. He carried a faded canvas backpack while watching his classmates showing off newly released designer bags. Everyone, today I'd like to introduce a new member of our senior class, announced Ms. Rebecca Parker, an American literature specialist known for her academic rigor. This is Jack Miller, who comes from rural Kentucky. Curious glances scanned Jack from head to toe, lingering on his worn leather boots, his unbranded jeans and his carefully ironed plaid shirt, visibly simpler than the clothes of the other students. "You can sit back there, Jack," the teacher pointed to an empty desk at the back of the room. Jack walked between the rows, aware of the whispers that followed his steps. He sat down and fixed his gaze on his notebook, as if seeking a safe harbor there. The first few weeks were an endurance test. Jack was a dedicated student, but his thick Kentucky accent provoked muffled laughter every time he answered a question. Ms. Parker, far from discouraging such reactions, seemed to find some pleasure in exposing the differences of the new student. In today's class, we'll talk about daily routines and how they reflect socio-economic aspects of our society, said Rebecca, walking between the desks. "Let's start with Tyler. Tell the class about your morning routine." Tyler Thompson, son of a renowned plastic surgeon, smiled confidently. "I wake up at 6:30, do an hour of weight training with my personal trainer in our home gym, then have breakfast prepared by our cook and come to school with my driver," he answered naturally. The teacher nodded approvingly and continued asking other students. Stories about international trips, private language lessons, and exclusive hobbies filled the classroom. When she reached the last row, she stopped in front of Jack's desk. "And you, our colleague from the countryside? What's your routine before coming to school?" Jack hesitated but decided to speak honestly. "I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, ma'am. First, I help my dad milk the cows. Then I feed the chickens, collect the eggs, and help my mum prepare breakfast for the farm workers. Only then do I get ready for school." A momentary silence was broken by poorly contained laughter. Ms. Parker didn't hide an ironic smile. "Fascinating, Jack. And tell me, does your house have an electric shower, or do you still take bucket baths in the yard?" The room erupted in laughter. Jack felt his face burn. He knew he was different, but he had never felt so out of place, so humiliated. "We do have an electric shower, Mum," he replied quietly. During break time, Jack remained in the classroom, avoiding the courtyard, where the already formed groups naturally excluded him. He took a sandwich prepared by his mother from his backpack, wrapped in aluminum foil. From across the room, Emma Brooks, a girl with brown hair and attentive eyes, observed him curiously. "Are you really from a farm?" she asked, approaching. Jack nodded cautiously, expecting another taunt. "Cool. My grandparents had a small farm in Vermont. I loved spending vacations there when I was little," she commented, sitting next to him. "I'm Emma." "Jack," he replied, surprised by the genuine interest. The conversation was interrupted when a group of boys entered the classroom. "Look, Emma's already doing charity work with Farmer John," taunted Brandon, the group leader and Emma's boyfriend. Emma rolled her eyes. "Don't be an idiot, Brandon." Jack quickly put away his lunch and opened a book, pretending to study. Emma hesitated but eventually moved away when Brandon called her. At the end of class, Ms. Parker announced, "For next week, I want you to prepare a presentation on a topic relevant to contemporary society that directly relates to your lives. This assignment will be worth 30% of your grade this quarter." While packing his things, Jack heard animated conversations about projects on sustainable fashion, financial investments, and disruptive technologies. None of these topics were part of his reality. At home, in a small studio apartment rented in the Riverside district, where he lived with his mother during the school year, Jack found Mrs. Linda Miller preparing a potato soup. His father, Mr. Robert Miller, had stayed in Oak Ridge Valley taking care of the farm, making sacrifices so his son could study in the city. "How was your day, son?" asked Mrs. Miller, noticing the young man's downcast expression. "It was fine, Mom," he lied, not wanting to worry her. That night, lying in bed, Jack seriously thought about giving up. Going back to Oak Ridge Valley, to the simplicity of the life he knew, and where he was respected for who he was. But he remembered his parents' sacrifice, the dreams they had placed in him. With his eyes fixed on the peeling ceiling, he made a decision. He wouldn't give up, and more than that, he would show his worth. He picked up his phone and typed a message to his father. "Dad, I need your help with a school project. It's about the farm." During the weekend, Jack dedicated himself entirely to his project. Video calls with his father, Mr. Miller, became more frequent. With each conversation, he noted details about the organic production system they had implemented on the farm in recent years. "This idea of presenting our farm was the best you've had, son," said Mr. Miller, with evident pride in his voice. "I'll set aside some seed samples and those production reports we made for the bank." Mrs. Miller watched the preparations with a mixture of concern and hope. She knew her son well and knew how hard he was trying to fit into this new world without losing his roots. "Jack, you don't need to prove anything to anyone," she commented, while helping her son organize the material for the project. "It's not just that, Mom. I want them to understand that being from the countryside doesn't mean being backward or ignorant. I want to show what we've managed to do back in Oak Ridge Valley." On Monday, arriving at school carrying a carefully prepared wooden box, Jack received curious looks. Emma approached with a genuine smile. "Looks like you took this assignment." "Seriously, huh?" Jack nodded, somewhat nervous. "It's important to me." The presentations began after the break. His classmates' projects were sophisticated, slides in cutting-edge programs, professionally edited videos, models made with imported materials. Tyler presented a project on investments in tech startups, with impressive graphs showing the financial returns of emerging companies. Ms. Parker seemed delighted. "Excellent economic approach, Tyler. We see here a contemporary entrepreneurial vision." When it was Brandon's turn, he displayed a project on sustainable architecture, with plans for a smart home that saved energy. It was evident that the work had been done by a hired professional. "Wonderful, Brandon," praised the teacher. "Sustainability combined with technology is the future." Emma presented a project on sustainable fashion using recycled materials. Her work, made with genuine passion, impressed everyone, including Jack, who applauded discreetly from the back of the room. The teacher consulted her list. Next, Jack Miller. A silence loaded with expectation filled the room when Jack stood up and walked to the front, carrying his wooden box. Some mocking whispers could be heard. "Is he bringing a chicken to class?" someone murmured, provoking giggles. Ignoring the comments, Jack placed the box on the table and carefully began to remove its contents. First, small glass vials containing different types of soil, each labeled with detailed information. Then, seed samples in transparent packages, also identified. Finally, a handmade model, surprisingly well crafted, showing the irrigation and cultivation system of the Miller farm. "My project is about sustainable and regenerative agriculture," he began, with a slightly trembling but firm voice. "Specifically, I'll talk about how we transformed a traditional farm into a complete organic system, without using pesticides and with practices that regenerate the soil." Ms. Parker raised an eyebrow, clearly not expecting such an approach. Jack began to explain how the crop rotation system worked, using the model to demonstrate. He talked about the importance of pollinating insects, about the rational use of water, and showed productivity graphs they had developed over the last 3 years. This type of soil, he said, raising one of the vials, is specific for growing organic coffee. We've managed to develop a mixture of natural nutrients that completely replace chemical fertilizers. Gradually, the class's interest grew. Mocking looks gave way to genuine attention. Even Tyler and Brandon listened with curiosity. This other vial contains a compound we developed for natural pest control, using only organic matter and beneficial microorganisms. Emma smiled discreetly, proud of her classmate. Ms. Parker, however, seemed uncomfortable with the unexpected level of knowledge demonstrated by the student she had considered inferior. "Very interesting, your rustic presentation, Jack," she interrupted with a condescending tone. "But tell me, who helped you put this together? It must have been difficult for someone with your background to elaborate this technical content alone." Some students exchanged glances, uncomfortable with the comment. "I built the model, Ma'am," Jack replied, maintaining his composure. "The technical data comes from our farm's reports. We've been working with this for years." "Your farm?" asked Brandon mockingly. "A little subsistence plot, you mean?" Jack took a deep breath, about to respond, when the classroom door opened. Mr. Robert Miller entered wearing a simple dress shirt, freshly pressed denim pants, and leather boots. He carried a hat in his hand and brought a leather portfolio. Despite the simplicity in dress, there was a dignity and presence that immediately caught everyone's attention. "Excuse me," he said, with a firm and polite voice. "I apologize for being late. The traffic in New York is quite different from what I'm used to." Miss Parker looked at him with surprise. "And you are?" "Robert Miller, Jack's father," he replied, extending his hand to greet her. "I came to bring some additional materials for his presentation. He told me he could have guests today." Jack's face lit up. He hadn't expected his father to come in person, thinking he would just send the promised documents. "Dad, you came." Mr. Miller smiled at his son with pride. "Of course I came. When you talked about this important project, I couldn't miss being here." The teacher, visibly disconcerted, tried to regain control of the situation. "Well, Mr. Miller, we were just finishing your son's presentation. He showed us some elements from your rural property." Mr. Miller approached the table where the materials were and examined the model attentively. "It turned out very well, son. You perfectly captured the irrigation system we implemented last year." Turning to the class, Mr. Miller opened the portfolio he brought and removed some photographs and documents. "I'd like to compliment my son's presentation, if you'll allow," he said to the teacher, who just nodded, unable to refuse given the student's evident interest. Mr. Miller fixed the photographs on the board, aerial images of an extensive property with diversified cultivation areas, modern facilities for organic food processing, and an impressive structure of solar greenhouses. "This is Green Future Farm, our property in Oak Ridge Valley," he explained, with the naturalness of someone who knows the subject deeply. "We started small, just with dairy cattle, but in the last 15 years we've specialized in integrated organic production." The students moved closer to see better. Ms. Parker remained motionless, the embarrassment evident on her face. "Currently," continued Mr. Miller, "we export to 3 states and our products are internationally certified. We employ 32 families permanently and another 25 seasonal workers during harvests." Brandon, who had previously mocked Jack, now looked at him with a mixture of surprise and respect. Emma smiled openly, delighted with the turn of events. As for Jack, he stood beside his father, his posture now more upright, his face illuminated by a discreet smile of pride. Miss Parker, trying to maintain her authority, cleared her throat and asked, "And do you have a degree in agronomy, Mr. Miller?" Mr. Miller smiled serenely. "No, ma'am. I only completed high school. I've taken some technical courses over the years, but my real learning came from practice, from trial and error in the field and a lot of reading." Removing a set of reports from the portfolio, he continued, "These are our productivity indexes for the last 5 years. As you can see, we achieved a 27% increase in production using fewer natural resources and 0 chemical products." Tyler raised his hand, genuinely interested. "But how do you control pests without pesticides? At my uncle's company, they say it's impossible to produce on a large scale without them." Excellent question, replied Mr. Miller. We use a biological control system with natural predator insects and companion plants. Jack can explain better. He's the one who manages that part. All eyes turned to Jack, who for the first time since arriving at that school felt valued for his knowledge. We raise ladybugs and other beneficial insects in specific greenhouses, he explained, his voice now firm. They are strategically released in the plantations and naturally combat the insects that attack the plants. Additionally, we plant species that naturally repel certain pests around the main crops. Emma, visibly impressed, asked the next question. And is that economically viable? Initially, the investment is higher, admitted Mr. Miller. But in the medium and long term, we save on chemical inputs and gain a premium value for certified organic products, not to mention the benefit of not contaminating the soil, water, and workers with toxic substances. The class that should have lasted 50 minutes extended for almost 2 hours. No one seemed willing to leave. Mr. Miller and Jack alternated explanations, complementing each other with the naturalness of those who share not just knowledge, but a passion. Miss Parker, who had initially tried to minimize the presentation, was now taking discreet notes. The bell rang, announcing the end of the period, but nobody moved. Well, I think we need to wrap up, she finally said with an embarrassed smile. I thank Mr. Miller for his presence and congratulations on the presentation, Jack. It was illuminating. As the students left, many approached Jack and his father, asking additional questions. Emma was the last to say goodbye. You crushed it today, she said, lightly touching Jack's arm. I've never seen the class so interested in a presentation. Brandon observed from a distance, with a contemplative look. In the days that followed, a subtle transformation began to occur. In the cafeteria, Jack was invited to sit with a group of students interested in sustainability. In classes, when he spoke, there were no more muffled laughs but genuine attention. Ms. Parker, though maintaining a certain distance, began to treat him with a professional respect she hadn't shown before. The most significant change, however, came 2 weeks later, when the school principal, Dr. Catherine Whitfield, called Jack to her office. I've been hearing very interesting things about you, Jack, she said, indicating that he should sit. Your presentation on sustainable agriculture has caused quite a positive buzz in the school. Jack nodded, somewhat wary. He wasn't yet accustomed to praise in that environment. We're organizing our career week and would like to invite your father to give a talk on rural entrepreneurship. Do you think he would accept? I believe so, Principal. He really enjoys sharing our work. Excellent. And we would like you to participate as well, talking about the new generation's vision in sustainable agribusiness. That night, when he told the news to his mother in their small studio apartment, Mrs. Miller couldn't hold back her tears. I knew it, son. I knew they would see your worth. Career Week became the most talked about event of the semester. The auditorium was packed for Mr. Miller's lecture, who spoke with simplicity and wisdom about the challenges and rewards of betting on organic production when everyone said it wasn't viable. In the front row, Ms. Parker listened attentively to every word. At the end, she was one of the first to applaud enthusiastically. When it was Jack's turn, he took the stage with the confidence of someone who finally found his place. He spoke about the importance of uniting traditional farmers' knowledge with new sustainable technologies, about the pride of being from the countryside, and about how the future of food depended on a new perspective on rural production. Among the spectators, Emma recorded everything attentively. Beside her, surprisingly, was Brandon. He's really good, commented the young man with unprecedented sincerity. My father is thinking about investing in organic farming, and I want to introduce him to Mr. Miller. At the end of the semester, during the academic awards ceremony, the principal announced, the award for the most relevant project this year goes to Jack Miller for the work Regenerative Agriculture, Producing Food and Preserving Life. The auditorium burst into applause. Emma was the first to stand, followed by Tyler, Brandon, and gradually the entire audience. Even Ms. Parker applauded, vigorously, her face showing genuine respect. As he climbed the stage to receive the trophy, Jack searched the audience for his parents' faces. Mrs. Miller cried discreetly. Beside her, Mr. Miller remained standing, chest swelled with pride, applauding in silence. Holding the trophy, Jack approached the microphone. "I'd like to thank my parents who taught me the value of honest work and respect for the land. When I arrived here, I thought I needed to hide my origins to be accepted. Today I know that it was precisely because of them that I found my place." He took a deep breath and continued, his voice laden with emotion. "I'm from the countryside, and I'm very proud of that." Applause echoed again, stronger this time. The following month, Westfield Academy inaugurated a pioneering project, an experimental organic garden on the main building's roof, coordinated by a team of students under Jack's guidance. The idea had emerged after a conversation between him and Emma, who had become inseparable. Ms. Parker, in a surprising demonstration of change, proposed an elective course on regional American literature, exploring the richness of traditions and languages from the country's interior. On a Sunday afternoon, while working in the experimental garden with Emma, Jack received a message on his phone. It was a photo sent by his father, Green Future Farm seen from above, with its verdant fields and modern facilities. The message said, "Your place is kept here, son, but I know you're also cultivating important seeds there now." Emma looked over Jack's shoulder and smiled. "It's beautiful, your farm. When can I see it?" "Next vacation," he invited with a shy smile. "My mom will love to meet the girl who wasn't ashamed to talk to the country boy on the first day." "It was the best decision I ever made," she replied, holding his dirt-covered hand. Standing at the door leading to the roof, Ms. Parker observed the students working in the garden. She approached Jack with a book in hand. "I found this in the library and thought of you," she said, handing him an old copy of American Earth Stories by Mark Twain. "Thank you, teacher," replied Jack, surprised by the gesture. "I've learned a lot from you, Jack," she admitted with sincerity, "about judging less and listening more." As the teacher walked away, Jack looked at the New York sky, so different from the open sky of Oak Ridge Valley, but equally his now. In his hands, the soil from the urban garden symbolically mixed with the soil from his farm. Two worlds that were no longer separate but complementary. Dear listeners, we hope that Jack Miller's story has touched your hearts. To continue this journey of emotions and overcoming, we've prepared a special playlist with equally captivating narratives. Find it here by clicking on your left. If you enjoyed this story about prejudice and recognition, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave your like on the video. Every day we bring unique stories that explore the complexities of American life. Don't miss our upcoming content. We're eager to read your comments.